All right, quite possibly the least surprising study in human history. People who have sex 4 times or more a week earn higher wages than their less sexually active colleagues at a statistically significant level. This is according to Nick Drydakis, who's a fellow at the Institute for the Study of Labor, which is a private independent organization focused on labor market research. And the findings come from an analysis of 7,500 Greek households. The survey asked the representative sample respondents how many times they had sex per week, whether they were employed, how much money they made, and how many hours per week they worked, among a bunch of other questions as well. And to be clear, the findings weren't just have sex, make more money. No, it was a little more nuanced than that. It was more like having sex leads to being happier and having higher self-esteem and clearer thinking and less depression, and all of those things then translates to being more personable, and that would lead to making more money. And it's also one of the, a chicken or the egg type scenario as well, because if you make more money, you're likely to be more desirable in the dating market, which could lead to more sex. So what's the bottom line here? Well, my takeaway from it is that the fundamentalist religious people, whether they be in Islam or Christianity, or fundamentalists of any stripe, the old school Puritans who have that traditional mindset where they think, and we all know them, to one level or another. I don't know how extreme some of the people you guys know are, but people who think like, oh, sex, you can't do it. You can't do it until you're married, It's got to be abstinent, and it's horrible and disgusting, but you should totally save it for the person that you love the most. I forgot who. I did not come up with that quote. It was somebody else who originally said it. And the bottom line is those guys are wrong. They're just wrong. They're wrong about this. They're wrong about drugs. And look, I don't want to be an extremist on the other side. So am I saying that literally having as much sex as humanly possible is a good thing? Actually, yeah, I am kind of saying that. No, I'm joking. Look, there are limits. So if you're having sex to the point where it gets in the way of you living your life, you can't pay your bills on time, and you miss work and you get fired, well, yeah, that's an issue. I don't know how prevalent a problem that is, 0.01% of society, maybe, I don't know, I'm making numbers up here, but you get my point. There are limits, but by and large, if you have sex 4 times a week or 5 times a week or a little more, that's good, that's positive. Or even when it comes to drugs, whether it be alcohol or smoking a blunt or whatever your drug of choice is, doing it in moderation is something that can be supplemental to living, a long, happy life. This idea that something that in excess might be bad, therefore you can't touch it under any circumstances ever, and you should, live in a bubble and say, I can't have it, I can't have it. Well, that's stupid. Having sex and, taking different substances, again, in moderation, that's called de-stressing. That's called being a human being. God, if I was a psychologist, and I almost was too, when I went to college, my first thing I wanted to major in was psychology. And I did briefly. Now, I eventually switched to political science, obviously, but because, psychology wasn't what I thought it was really going to be, and I kind of lost interest. But if I had become a psychologist, all I would be like, oh, you have, a moderate level of stress or a moderate level of depression. Here's my prescription. Go ahead and have some sex, have some alcohol, take a 2-week vacation laying on a gorgeous beach in a tropical climate, and come back and tell me how great you feel afterwards. You're welcome.